Good evening, good night, depending on where you're at, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is our 95th program for the Belizean Affairs Show. Tonight is Friday, 26th of January, 2024. We welcome you back again. Hopefully, whatever we have to say tonight may accrue to the benefit and well-being of our people and our country. And hopefully, at the end of the program, you have been a little bit more informed than you were at the beginning of the program. That's our objective. We don't always achieve it, but that is what our effort is all about. Trying to produce and provide information to enhance the mindset of our people so that we can deal with what is going on currently and what is yet to come. We need to be aware, prepare, and hold fast. Thank you very much for your attention. And for those who will be tuning in tonight, we appreciate your spending your valuable time tuning in. For those who will be tuning in at other times at your convenience, because we know everybody don't have the same time and same schedule, and therefore we do appreciate your input, your effort to follow us and hear what we have to say. And like I said, we hope that at the end of the program you have been a little better off than you were before. Thank you very much. God bless. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'm one of the panelists on the show. I'm going to be your chairman for tonight. And we have our next panelist, Mr. Rudy Wade, who will give us our prayer tonight, as well as he'll do the reading, because I'll have a lot of reading to do tonight. And so he's going to be taking up a little bit of the slack. We also have Gregory Brackett, our next panelist, and senior uh, show engineer. He's not on yet. We expect that, or we hope that he'll be gracing us with his presence not too far from now. And so, therefore, we'll just proceed, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Rudy Wade for the prayer.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you, Chairman, for tonight. It's a pleasure to be in your company once more. I want to give thanks and praise to the Almighty because without Him, it's not possible. And like you says, this is our 95th edition of Belizean Affairs. So let's bow our heads, to for a prayer. Almighty and eternal God, as we come to you with humble hearts, Heavenly Father, on this blessed night, we come before you with humble hearts, seeking your divine guidance and grace. We thank you for the gift of life and the countless blessing bestowed upon us. Grant us strength to overcome challenges, wisdom to make righteous decisions,
Amen.
and compassion to love one another.
Yeah.
May your light shine upon us, filling our lives with peace,
Amen.
joy, happiness, and a purpose. We entrust our hopes, dreams, and worries in your loving hands. Please
Amen.
continue to bless Belize and keep us safe as a godly nation.
Amen.
And we pray that our leaders who supposed to protect and serve us turn from their wicked ways and turn to God and make our country where all humanity lives in perfect peace and harmony. In
Amen.
Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Mr. Chairman, I will proceed with a word
Yes, sir.
from Exodus chapter 23, 1 to 10. You shall not spread a false report You shall not join hands with a wicked man to be a malicious witness. You shall not fall in with the many to do evil, nor shall you bear witness in a lawsuit, siding with the many, so as to pervert justice. Nor shall you be partial to a poor man in his lawsuit. If you meet your enemy, ox, or his donkey going astray, you shall bring it back to him. If you
Mhm.
see a donkey of one who hates you lying down under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving him with it. You shall rescue it with him. You shall not pervert the justice due to your poor in his lawsuit. Keep far from a false charge, and do not kill the innocent unrighteous. For I will not acquit the wicked, and you shall take no bribe. For a bribe blinds the clear insight and subvert the cause of those who are in right. You shall not oppress a sojourner. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were a sojourner in the land of Egypt. For 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in your yield. That's my reading from Exodus 23 1 to 10. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, for your eloquent supplication prayers on behalf of all Belizeans and the rest of humanity as well.
Thank you.
And thank you for that prayer also on behalf of our show, so that we hope that the good Lord will bless us and guide our thoughts and our spoken words, that we do not, as you as your reading says, malign people unduly, unnecessarily, and or wantonly or gratuitously. But that in the instances when we do have to bring to the attention devious acts of others, to point them out as part of our presentation, that we do so with a measure of concern for the bigger picture. That is to say, the well-being of our people and country as a whole, and to not be silent when we do have to speak about the wrongs that is being done to our people and us and our country, that we do not stay silent and just watch as others put us in worse situation than we need to be. So anyone who has listened to our show in the past will recognize our show as being a show that speaks truth to power, and we do not
Amen.
hold our tongue.
Amen.
Like the Spanish people say, we don't grow hair on our tongue, because we use it, and we use it in a way that is justifiably used. Not that we may not make mistakes, all human beings do, but that when we make those mistakes, we make them honestly, with a sense of contriteness, and are willing to accept when we are wrong, if we are wrong, and point out, like I said earlier, the ills that beset our country and people.
Amen.
So no one is paying us to be here. You're volunteering your time, effort, knowledge, and experience, bringing it to the table to help in this greater cause on behalf of our country. And for that, I'd like to say personally, I appreciate very much being in your company and to have you as a partner in this grand endeavor to provide additional information and education to our people, especially because of the precarious situation that our country is finding itself in as regards to the ICJ, the CCJ, the Mayan land rights situation, the cane farmer situation, the sugar problems, the Maritime Areas Act, the delimitation of our boundaries, the overpopulating of our country by individuals who our constitution said we should not be giving them citizens to because they're hostile to the interests of our country and or rights to exist, and many others. Uh, I have two main sections that I would like to deal with for tonight, and they all deal with the issue of our country and our right to call it our country and how we came about establishing that right, and why is it that our people need to be able to recognize what empowers us with that right. So tonight's show, even though it's a Friday show, a constitutional and legal case law show, which we do always on Fridays. We have three programs: one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and the one on Friday. And the Friday one is the one that we deal substantively with legal issues, as well as we deal with our constitution. And also, I failed to mention earlier when I was enumerating some of the ills that we're dealing with, the attempt to try and eviscerate our existing constitution. But we'll get to those afterwards. For tonight, uh, I would like to start off our show well, if you give me just a second, I want to pull up something here. Just a second, just a second. I need your patience. That's not it. Okay. 21st. Okay, there we go. The first part of the show, I'll do a little, well, I shouldn't say a little because I know it's going to be more than just a little. I'll do a long reading and try to let everyone get an idea as to what is it that's coming before it comes. And I don't want anyone get bored or tired or feel like I'm never going to finish, because it is going to come to an end at some point. But it's a very long article that I wrote that I need to give a little bit more airtime to, because even though we have a number of people going to our site, visiting different things that I put out there, we need more of our Belizean people to be aware of this information. We have skilled researchers such as Ms. Detragilit and many others who are trying to put in the extra work to facilitate our people at home and abroad with additional knowledge about our history. But what I'm about to read here tonight is not just history. It has to do with history, but it also has to do with legal matters, military matters. It's very long, and it's because it's covering a wide area. And it's essential for me to go through the process. So therefore, before I kick off, I'm going to ask your forbearance. Please bear with me. Hang in there. Pay as keen attention as you can, because I'm saying I'm of the opinion that somewhere along the line I'm going to lose some of you, because it's going to become kind of boring and monotonous. I know that to be a fact, and I'm just asking ahead of time that you bear with me as I go through the process, because at the end of this process, many individuals can be much better off than they were before I start the process. I'll start by saying that it's an item that I had, like I said earlier, had written, and it's entitled please stop the press. And this is the second part of it. There's a first part which I don't have available right now to deal with, and it's kind of long too. But this second part is the part that I really want to get the people to be aware of as much as possible and to think it through, go back, and if possible, look at it because I'm going to be putting it back on the internet again for people to get another opportunity to address. Uh, I'm just about launching, and here we have our senior engineer and our next panelist. We like to defer the beginning of my presentation and just introduce Mr. Gregory Brackett, our colleague, and other panelists. Greg, would you have something to say before I kick off, sir?
Good night, Greg.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that warm welcome. As you know, it's always a pleasure sitting with you guys as my co-host virtually. And tonight is no different from no other night. So I welcome the Belizean people at home and abroad. And I'm looking forward to enlightening them so that maybe might know
Thank you very much, sir.
something or find some
Oh, sorry.
information that will be helpful. Thank you, sir.
Uh, did you want to play music? But before you do so, then, because like I said, once I get into this stuff, it's going to be lengthy. Um, and I wouldn't want to break then to play the music. I'd rather play it. No, but before we do that, there were some people,
No, go straight. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
okay, there are some people on our site. I would like to acknowledge a couple of them, a few of them, if you don't mind. We have Mr. Bilal Amir on Facebook. We also have Ms. Naida Moya. We have uh, I don't see the name of this. Oh, Bill Easy. Yeah, we have Mr. Bill Easy from New York, and we also have another individual, one of our regular guests.
Good
Says
night.
good night. I think if I'm not mistaken, that might be Miss Rubina Forte. That's her regular. That's her handle for uh, tuning into the show, and we appreciate all of our current and future listeners, as I intimated earlier. This particular show, believe me, it's going to be some fire and brimstone. So I was begging pardon ahead of time earlier, and now when I start, I'm not going to be begging pardon while I'm going through it, nor after it, because I've already begged the pardons number of times before. But please bear with me, as I said. There we go. Before this part of the presentation, like I said, is based on essay that I had written in reply to. I'll get into that. Please stop the press. Second part. The, the following commentary was made by Leonard Brackett and originally sent to Miss Louise Milton in response to a video clip she sent to me from the Belize Ministry of Foreign Affairs referendum campaign. This was back in June 26th of 2022. And now attached here to a second part of Please Stop the Press, Mr. Joseph Roker. I went on to say, Miss Louise Middleton, my dear esteemed learned patriot, venerable vanguard of Belize, thanks for the video clip from the Belize Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I said to her, about 90% of the gentleman's presentation on the video clip was factually correct, and about 10% of the presentation he made was factually incorrect as an apparent convenient sleight of hand. There were some glaring errors, omissions, and oversights, which were tactically sidestepped in order to justify people's accepting the flawed premise of the yes to the ICJ agenda. Now remember, the ICJ issue was dealt with under the previous administration, the Barrow administration, and therefore this was being dealt with at that time. But this particular um, revamping of that information was reissued, like I said, and posted on January 22nd, 2022, which was during the course of this administration, long after the previous administration had been out of office. I went on to say, which was tactically sidestepped in order to justify people's accepting the flawed premise of the yes to the ICJ agenda. 1. Spain never conquered the Mayans of Belize. 2. Spain never conquered the total landmass of Belize and seemed disinterested in the islands or swampy lands onshore, then being used by the indigenous people, Mayans, and pirates and buccaneers and marooners and others as Spanish galleons, referring to their ships, they were big ships and they used to call them galleons, were not navigating the treacherous shoals and waters between the Barrier Reef and mainland of Belize, formerly British Honduras. Number 3, Spain temporarily dispersed some settlers from Belize settlement, taking some to Cuba in one instance. They had made quite a few attempts at dislodging the people from there, but never did they ever succeed other than for one instance. And subsequent to that one instance, they did try it again, and they lost at the Battle of St. George's Key. Nevertheless, I'll proceed with the third item, number 3. Item number 3A. As some of the people fled inland and others fled to southern Belize, whilst others fled to the Bay Islands of Banaka and Ratan and others, as well as mainland Spanish Honduras and in Nicaragua's Bluefield and elsewhere, and the Black River settlements and the port of Trujillo and the Cayman Island and Jamaica proper. Before the Battle of St. George's Key on the 10th of September 1798, and long before Guatemala's independence on the 15th of September 1821 AD. Item number 4. After the Battle of St. George's Key in 1798, the Spanish never returned to contest any sovereignty to Belize, neither from Mexico or from Guatemala. Item number 5. Previously, the Captain Generalcy of Guatemala had dispatched a military expedition force under Captain General Thomas Mateo Galvez to dislodge the Honduras Bay men from the Black River settlements in Trujillo and Bluefields and the Bay Islands of Ratan and Banaka. But Guatemala's General Galvez did not contest Belize, British Honduras, colony status. However, Thomas Mateo Galvez was soundly defeated by British Jamaican-based troops and some Bay men and returned to Guatemala. It is after him that the naval base at Santo Tomas is named, nearby Puerto Barrios, for those who have traveled over there. A territory actually belonging to the Republic of Honduras, which Guatemala rented and leased for 100 years, but has not returned even after the expiration of that lease. Item number 6. Guatemala subsequently acceded to the need of a boundary treaty to stabilize the frontiers and borders in order to stop the Yemen from going too far into Peteng and Koban, Baha Pass district, as was occurring at that time, with the filibusters who they call gringos, some of whose graves are in Punta Gorda, Belize, even today. Item number 7. Guatemala did not cede or give any lands to Belize, British Honduras. That is to say, half of Belize for a dirt cart road, which would have been a stupid or illogical action as is being propagated today. Item number 7, small a, reads as follows. Article 7, in which the Guatemalans requested of the British to help build a dirt cart road for commerce and demographic impact on Belize in the Anglo-Guatemalan Boundary Treaty of 30th of April 1859 and 1863 has been consummated and is rendered mute for all intents and purpose because of item number 7b, for example. Belize has built a 2-lane asphalt highway from Belize City, Belize District to Benqueviejo del Carmen at the border town in Cayo District in Belize, as well as for the other reason, such as item number 7, small b, small I, as well as another road from Punta Gorda town to Halacte at the border crossing, connecting Belize to Guatemala for enabling cross-border commerce. Item number 7C, Guatemala has built a 4-lane modern highway from Guatemala City, Guatemala District to Melchor de Mencos, border town in the Petén District of the Republic of Guatemala. These are all established and known facts. Item number 7D, small d, says, the ongoing commerce between Belize and Guatemala is substantially in favor of Guatemala at over $100 million plus annually and substantially against Belize at under $10 million annually, which is an imbalance that is draining Belize's foreign exchange, that negatively impacts Belize's national economic policies and monetary reserves, a disadvantaged national economic security dilemma for Belize. Item number 7E, the demographic impact, that is to say, human migration of Guatemalans into Belize, formerly British Honduras, on the modern highway that was built, which is not a real cart road per se, but an enhanced highway, has helped to massively turn Belize into approximately 65% Latin country, a disadvantaged national territorial integrity and security dilemma for Belize. Item number 7F, small f, reads as follows. Why the leaders of Belize allowed themselves to be bamboozled into helping Guatemala take Belize to the ICJ to contest independence Belize's territorial integrity, whilst mismanaging and lying to the Belizeans and the world, is incredulous and a shameful derogation of duty and sworn oath, as well as a betrayal of patrimony and patriotism. Item number 8. Livingston and Barrios, being two communities on the Guatemalan side of the border today, based on today's boundary, that was established back in 1859, The Livingston and Barrios are English name settlements on the North Guatemalan side of the Sarstun River that was previously occupied by English baymen and logwood cutters and others, as well as parts of Petén district, Baja Verapaz, Melchor de Mencos, and other western areas, which were given to Guatemala as part of the Anglo-Guatemala Boundary Treaty of April 30th of 1859. Item number 8, small a, reads as follows. So, the Baymen, British Honduras, Belize, did give lands to Guatemala for a stable border or boundary or frontier that were recognized decades before the 1859 treaty. Item number 9 reads as follows. The most dangerous part of the compromising agreement is requesting that the ICJ ultravirus or alter and do violence to our Belize Constitution in regards to any and all claims by Guatemala to lands and sea and islands and rivers and insular areas. Item number 10, I went on to say, Guatemala has never wanted to go at the courts and may never had accepted to go at the ICJ to contest the Anglo-Guatemala treaties of 1859 and 1863, except for the incompetence and treachery of Belize pretend diplomats and government leaders whom are lending aid and comfort to Guatemala bogus claim versus Belize by signing side deals and by compromising agreements and ITJ programs. I did went on as follows with quite a few other numbers to point out, for example, some of the things, the treacherous things that was done under item number 10, small a. For example, with the sword of Damocles over our collective heads. Item number 10, capital A, reads, the Bothwell-Webster 1317 proposals of 1966 and 1968. Item number 10, capital B, the 13 proposals, heads of agreements of 1981. Item number 10C, capital C, the Maritime Areas Act of 1989. Item number 10D, capital D, the Border Delimitation Accords of 1991. Item number 10, capital E, reads as follows. The Adjacency Zone Confidence Building Agreement. And item number 10, capital F, the Ramphal-Weicker proposals of 2000. And item number 10, capital G, the Special Compromising Agreement. And item number 10H, capital H, the Placentia 13 Agreement Accords between Belize and Guatemala under the UDP-led government of Belize. Item number 10, I, capital I, reads as follows. ICJ referendum and associated contrivances, skullduggeries, subterfuge, and UDP-led government of Belize unconstitutional conduct in attempting to alter our constitution. Item number 10J, capital J, Belize's constitution, numerous breaches, violations by UDP-led government of Belize. Item number 10K, etc., and I could go on. Nevertheless, it was getting a bit long, and I went on to leave item number 10 in its multiple forms, and I went on to item number 11. as well as cooperating with Guatemala's attempt to abrogate and eviscerate the Anglo-Guatemala Border Treaty of 1859 and 1863, and whom advocate most strenuously, as in the case of our foreign ministers in so many different instances in the past, recent past especially, on behalf of Guatemala, who advocate more strenuously on behalf of Guatemala, our mortal enemy, rather than on behalf of Belize, whose foreign ministry they were occupying. In general, I went on to say, I stopped the enumeration process and I went on to say, Guatemala has nothing to lose in their ICJ endeavor undertakings. If the ICJ were to rule, if the rulings is contrary to Guatemala's interests, they have nothing to lose, and in favor of Belize, the Guatemalans would not accept or abide by such rulings, of course. They would likely reject any adverse ruling, as many other scofflaw countries have done with the rulings from the ICJ, and they would refuse compliance thereto, as other scofflaw nations have done. Since Guatemala has the support of the United States of America, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, with veto powers, and Guatemala would always be a bigger and better friend of the United States than Belize. That is what geopolitical interests and affairs is all about. I went on to add another paragraph there. However, if the ICJ rules or ruling is contrary to Belize's interests and in favor of Guatemala, then Belize will have to accept and abide by such rulings, since Belize could not likely reject any adverse ruling and refuse compliance thereto, as other scofflaw nations have done, because Belize would not have the support of the USA, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, with veto power, or any of the other four members, permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. And Belize will always be a smaller and lesser friend of the United States than Guatemala, because that is what geopolitical interests and affairs is all about. Most of these big countries, they look after their own their own governance, foreign affairs, and their own interests. And if the small guy have to be stepped on, then so be it. It has been the incompetence and treachery, treasonous conduct of some Belizean leaders that have us where we are today, worse off than we were before we entrusted them with our governance power. And I went on to conclude, in exasperation, long live Belizeans at home and abroad, and Belize. God bless always. And that is the end of that particular presentation, which I tried to mention initially would have been so long. I hope you had hung in there with me as I babbled through it. And the information that is contained therein, I hope from what people have heard, they would be a little bit more informed or better informed now than they were before. I know that is very likely to be the case because many of our people at home and abroad would not have had the privilege to go through all the materials that was necessary in order to compile that particular presentation. I have another part that I want to read, but it's different from this, but it relates to why is it that we Belizeans have a right to claim Belize as our territory. I would like to go to Mr. Wade and ask if you have something to comment there, please.
Very Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, welcome, Gregory. Glad to see you, my brother. Um, you you touch a very sensitive sore there, Leonard. It's a sore, and you went on to cover it very eloquently, and that's what we have been going through uh, before independence. Because, like I say, like you mentioned, the um, the countries that would more likely to side with Guatemala in the event,
Mhm.
and that's for some of us, that's nothing new, right? Like I say, the ICJ, right? Sadly, that I have said this on other occasions that on through this medium, that we didn't have to be at the ICJ. Who had a
Mhm.
gun to Dean Barrow's head? Who? And the most shameful ploy that they used to get us there. As for me, I could speak for myself. They had disenfranchised me, because I was a no to the ICJ. I couldn't
Mhm.
vote all the while I was a Belizean, but on that particular time to vote, I wasn't able to vote. They couldn't find my name. They had a re-registration drive, the UDP. When you have to go re-register again, I know a lot of people didn't have their birth paper and this and that, and they find a whole bunch of baloney so that they could have pushed through their agenda. They even used the military, I mean the security forces, right? Heads of department, threaten their subordinates, right? I could go on and on and on how they got there. Sadly, the end result, this is where we at. And don't get me wrong, say this quickly, but political party wanted us to be there. None of them stood firm on protests. They didn't do the right thing so that we didn't go there. No, they were right along with the UDP, this present government. And now you hear this Briseño guy, the leader of this nation, the prime minister of this nation, says to the nation, we have the best attorneys. And he is sure that we are going to, you know, win this case because we got the best attorney. And then he shoved his damn foot in his mouth and he says that, see what he did with the best attorney, Mr. Jerozovic? You see? No. You know
Mr.
what? This
Chairman,
whole this
Mr. On that point, what he did with Mr. Jerosovic was spit in the man's face. Now, how conscionable can our Prime Minister be to do something like that to the person that we are entrusting our whole national security and territory to? Thank you very much for yielding, sir. I yield
thank you.
back,
2 more
sir.
minutes. Take 2 more minutes of your
Sure, go
time,
right
right?
ahead.
This is what our Belizean people are going through. So, I would like to see I wake up tomorrow and we have a vast demonstration of this two-party system for what they did to us. Demonstrate against them and take them out, right? Bring in whoever, whatever, a different entity, right? But this is where this two-party system have us here. And sadly, You know, when you go to court, like I say, there'll always be a winner and a loser. And I have said again before, the worst is yet to come in this country. That's how I see our leaders, past and present, have us. The worst is yet to come if we continue with these hyenas, these crooks that only have self-interest. Self-interest. They lie to the entire nation and say, we all love you. We love this country and we love you. You decide. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade, for your eloquent response, sir, and contribution. Greg, would you care to participate in the discussion and give us some enlightenment there too, sir, please? If you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well
Welcome.
said, Mr. Wade, and thanks for your presentation, sir. I
Welcome, sir.
believe that after the Battle of St. George's Peace 1798, followed by Belizean independence 1981, followed by us becoming a part of the United Nations, 1981 made us an independent, sovereign nation. And I would be the first to tell you that you don't go around playing with your sovereignty. Why would we as a country that is independent want to go to the ICJ to find out if we, the Belizean populace and people, own Belize when that was proven during 1981, the 21st of September? To me, that is ludicrous. And again, it falls back to what I keep saying. Past and present government is lacking the ability to deal with external policies and internal policies. As a government under Prime Minister Barrow's regime, the Prime Minister should have never aligned our constitution with the Guatemalan constitution to have a referendum. That's number one. Number two, the present government, again, violating our national security when they went to the House and have some business senators deciding under national security if we should have a referendum or we should just align Honduras with the Sapodilla Keys.
Without consulting the public, without consulting the people.
That was an issue and matter of national security. And it should have went to a plebiscite or a referendum by asking the people. And with that said, I would like to bring it back to the people at home and abroad.
Madam President, on the 8th May 2019, the Belizean people voted by a majority of 55% to 44% to submit the claim by Guatemala to any land, insular territories of Belize, and the maritime areas pertaining thereto to the International Court of Justice for final binding determination. This legal process is well underway between Belize and Guatemala. It has as its main objective the final resolution of the Guatemalan claim. Since 1982, Honduras has included a claim to the Sapodilla Keys in its constitution. We do not believe that the Honduran claim is credible. Because both Belize and Guatemala claim the Sapodillas in the ICJ case, which said keys are claimed by Honduras in its constitution, it is our understanding that Honduras will feel obliged to intervene in the Belize-Guatemala case now before the ICJ to assert its claim to the Sapodillas. Madam President, Belize and Honduras have excellent relations. After taking legal advice, we have engaged the Honduran government with a view to negotiating a resolution of their claim to the Zapadillas on the basis of Honduras acknowledging Belize's exclusive sovereignty over the Zapadillas. Regrettably, this has not been successful. If, as we believe is likely, Honduras applies to intervene in the case now before the court, it is likely to affect the Belize-Guatemala case. Once the ICJ becomes aware of the claim by Honduras to the Zapadillas, there is a significant risk that the court would not delimit the maritime areas that appertain to the Zapadillas, thereby leaving unresolved a large part of our maritime entitlement. Indeed, the ICJ may decide not to pronounce on sovereignty over the Zapadillas as well, even as between Belize and Guatemala. This would mean that sovereignty over a very important part of our sovereign domain, the Zapadillas and the maritime areas pertaining to it, will remain unresolved. In light of all the circumstances and based on legal advice from our international lawyers, Madam President, Belize seeks to accede to the Pact of Bogota, a treaty to which Honduras is a party. We are advised that as a state party to the pact, we can take Honduras to the International Court of Justice for the International Court of Justice to resolve Honduras's territorial claim to a part of Belize. This is what we are preparing to do. In this way, all countries that claim the Zapadillas would be before the International Court of Justice. For Belize to achieve its strategic objective of obtaining a conclusive determination of its territorial sovereignty over all its continental, insular, and maritime territory, including the Zapadillas Keys, it must submit the Honduran claim to the Zapadilla Keys to the ICJ under the Pact of Bogota. We ask for the support of the Senate for the accession to the Pact of Bogota.
Mr. Chairman, as I said before,
Go ahead, sir.
national security falls under the people of this country. That decision was made in the House to take Honduras to the ICJ over the Zapadilla Keys by some business senators in violation of our constitutional right, which is protected by the Referendum Act. I turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for your eloquent presentation and clarification and enhancement of Belizean at home and abroad knowledge. And hopefully, at the end of this presentation tonight, in addition to the rest of the material that we have available, like I said before, people may have gotten some public benefit from our presentation. First of all, I want to go back to the point of the sleight of hand that our learned, eloquent senior counsel, unelected member of cabinet, senator appointed, lead government business in the Senate, Mr. Courtney presented on that clip you played. There were quite a few sleight of hands, by the way, but I was intending to target a specific one. That is to say, the Senate, under normal circumstances, has the authority vested in it by our Constitution to be the entity that agrees or disagrees with foreign issues and treaties. So let's not get away from that. But what the good gentleman was saying and what they actually did was to abuse that privilege vested in them. Because before they can exercise that prerogative, there are other preliminary things that needs to happen before that issue gets to their table for them to deal with it under the powers of the Constitution vested in them. The sleight of hand was he brought up the fact that most people, or the majority of the people that voted in the plebiscite or the referendum to go or not to go to the ICJ, the majority of them that did voted authorized on a basis of the yes campaign to go to the ICJ. But they did not authorize the Senate to take on any additional issue as regards to the Honduras, Spanish Republic of Honduras potential claim to the Zapadilla Islands against Belize. Because for a matter of fact, historically, Puerto Barrios does not belong to Guatemala. Guatemala has no Atlantic outlet. The correct entity that could have laid any potential claim to the Zapadilla would have then been the Republic of Honduras, with whom then we would have a maritime issue as regards to how to divide the maritime areas. But the learned lawyer, as slick as he is, I'm giving him his credits, okay? The man is smart. But he's also a slickster. And he understood his assignments, like his prime minister would have said, to come out to the public in a public forum in the Senate as the leader of government business in the Senate and make a presentation to the Senate to ask the Senate to authorize the government to include Honduras in the ICJ process, when that is totally out of the context. When the people voted in that referendum, there was no such thing as giving authorization to the government or anyone else over any Honduras issues relating to our territory. They voted over the Guatemalan bogus claim. So the good gentleman pulled a quick sleight of hand and attempt to be doing the right thing in the eyes of those who would not know, but he forget to remember that he may know, and he thinks that there are a lot of other people, especially in our country, majority of whom are not on top of these issues, would not know. So therefore, they would not have been able to point out to him where the errors of his ways, was being abusive to the process. But there are many others of us out here who are in tune with these issues and who pay attention to these issues and who understand the process, procedures, and protocol by which he failed to abide, and therefore overreach his unelected status, his appointed status, his government privilege as lead government business person in the Senate, and as an invited member of cabinet, unelected at that, to declare that they were going to go ahead and authorize the Senate to make this decision because they had a majority in the Senate for them to go ahead and include Honduras when there's no such power vested in them, not even in the government, as a matter of fact, because they did not have their referendum on that issue like they had on the Guatemalan issue. He pulled a sleight of hand. He piggybacked one thing on top of the other, and people should not have been conscious of what took place. So, from my vantage point, I'll call the man a scoundrel personally. I could tell him that to his face because I know what he did. He knows what he did, and he knows that he's ultra-virusing the constitution of our country. That is one of the reasons. There are many other reasons, but that is one of the reasons why he hauled his tail and tried to get out of cabinet and get out of government after having pressured Mr. Briceño to come up with the money to pay off Mr. Ashcroft, so Mr. Ashcroft could give him fees. The bottom line is that is only one. The other one is that the ICJ issue is not going too well on our behalf. Why? Because we gone there like we did at the CCJ, at the Caribbean Court of Justice. We gone to the ICJ with the same nonsense, right? an emotional interest in having the judges rule on the basis of emotion, and with whip hand in our pocket, rather than doing research and tactically and strategically present with information so that we can end up prevailing at the end of the day when the court rules. Then our smart ass Prime Minister was spitting at their face at the very same man that we have as our lead attorney taking care of our business at that ICJ place, Mr. Jerosowitz. All because he want Mr. Jerosowitz, or he was hoping that Mr. Jerosowitz was going to give him cover to fleece the country with the bogus Portugal game that they were playing. The man there, Mr. Jerosowitz, dared to give him a proper intellectually correct, constitutionally viable set of recommendations. But he never want to hear that, what the man say. So he gone and get another attorney if he get another second opinion. But he used Mr. Jerosowicz information and gave to the other attorney and tell the other attorney what he wanted as an outcome. So the other attorney just gone where the PM for another bogus opinion rather than deal with the substantive opinion that he had gotten before. And all of them money come out of we government coffers just to make them pull one sleight of hand on us Belizeans so that they could get away with hustle some few $1 million out of the Portugal deal. These are a bunch of rascals, hyenas, jackals, and vampires, bloodsuckers. We country is a poor country and we don't deserve to be treated like that. Take the powers of we governance and subordinate to for their own personal interest and to hell with the public. That we had to end up to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to Mr. Ashcroft because they want pocket $1 few $1 million for themselves. They pay the man off. When they done, they're going to tell me craziness about, oh, they made a global settlement to the man for everything that was outstanding. Yes, part of what was outstanding was their own personal party debt that they had with the man to the tune of millions of dollars that he had loaned them that he wanted to get back. And they didn't have no way of getting it back to him. And get a concession out of we country's assets or get money out of we country's treasury. So then choose the last one, get the money out of we treasury. Account to them for we treasury that for them piggy bank. But I'll go back to the point of order because I was straying a little bit. I'm just getting a little emotional and mad, about what all these crazy people are doing to us. The point is the senator had no justification to bring that statement that he did to the Senate, to ask no specific authorization, because that matter should have came to the public as a part of a plebiscite. That, according to our constitution, is the purview of national security that rests in the hands of the populace. Government have no such power or authority to overreach and bypass the people. In fact, we've seen what they do constantly with these referendum issues. Oceana wanted a referendum and qualify for it, then bamboozle them out of it. They want to change the constitution. It requires a constitutional plebiscite. They're trying to dodge it. Then writing out anything when they make that they will decide whether or not whatever the committee, the CCC, produced to them is substantive enough to decide whether or not they're going to have a referendum. All this kind of craziness and more. I mean, I could go on and on and on, as I said. We're dealing with a bunch of people who have no regard, respect, or consideration for the Constitution. They don't have any respect for themselves much than anybody else. And as I told them before, going forward, the Constitution will be hung around their neck like an albatross, and every step that they make will be questioned, and they will have to answer. Because we will point it out, and the people will get to know all the connivingness that they're pulling off behind the scene. Mr. Brackett, would you like to make another comment before I go to the next part of the show, sir? Time is of the essence.
I'll give the floor to Mr. Wade.
Okay, Mr. Wade.
Thank you. my appeal to the Belizean public now is that demand from your government and your representative. This ICJ is a very, very critical situation. Demand from them, what is it that Guatemala is claiming? Let them tell you. What is it? I think that when you go to court, you are given your charge sheet and you know what you're going to court for.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it a problem for them to come to the Belizean people and tell them that, Guatemala has us to the ICJ and they're claiming X, Y, Z, B, A, whatever they're claiming. Their mouth are zip tight. You see what they did when they want to change the constitution? See all the wrongs they're making? Why couldn't they do that with the same with the claim from the ICJ?
Mm-hmm.
That is to tell you that they are trying to keep it a secret, right? Man, most of us are not stupid. Most of us are not stupid, right? But the reason, in my personal view, the reason why these jackals, past and present from the UDP and the PUP, the reason why they have us the way we are, and they did what they did, because they don't give a hoot if Guatemala take half of Belize, quarter of Belize, none of Belize, because they will have the money to live through whatever is the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, what does that left us, the poor and less fortunate? Where does that left us? Say no more. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Greg,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, sir.
as I said before, as a sovereign nation, you do not go to a court to claim your sovereignty once you was given independence. That is ludicrous. So I don't see why or who thought about that. Because as a sovereign nation that was recognized worldwide except for two nations, which is Israel and the United States, we were an independent country. Not to forget that also two Guatemalan presidents were siding with us. And we know what the Guatemalans had said previously. We will recognize your independence, but not your borderline. So why go to the ICJ if they recognize your sovereignty? It does not ring a bell to me, Mr. Chairman, and I do not have no faith present Prime Minister. And I go with this.
We have to get an attorney to represent us, and so that's what we're doing.
Would his focus be pushed away from the ICJ?
Obviously not. I mean, the work for the ICJ, the hard work has been done. Now the ICJ is having elections to elect new judges. I think that's supposed to be taking place sometime later this year. So they will be looking at our case next year. So it would not in any way distract Josevich from.
Are you confident? How confident are you, given that you said you had misunderstood the previous assignment?
Yeah, well, that happens all the time. I mean, with people, no, but we are very confident right now. He's laser focused on the ICJ, and also on this issue with Waterloo that he has been. We have had him involved from day one, so he understands what is being done.
That's a traitor.
Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brackett. The man said, the eloquent Mr. Prime Minister who doesn't like to give interviews and who always lies, bamboozles, going to turn around and tell we, the public, that have to listen to the garbage what he just said, that most of the hard work is already done. All we have to wait for now, for the people then go have the election among themselves with the different judges, because the 15 judges have to sit on the panel. So the judges have to elect judges and then decide who out of the judges that they have available will sit as the 15 panelists on that case. Okay. So that's what the lying prime minister is intimating, that all the work has already been done. How the hell all the work has already been done if the judges have not even sat on the case yet? Who fool did he talk to?
That man is in his own world.
He really feel like all of we Belizean and a bunch of anyhow. The man refused to talk to us straightforward, honestly, and upright. The man could just tell us the truth. That's all we need to help defend ourselves or help defend the country, knowing the truth. When he lied to we, and the masses of people don't know the difference, but it's presumed to not know the difference. Because I tell you, a lot of people that Belize know where they go on in different ways. If they don't know exactly in detail, then suspect. Because we Belizeans, there's a funny thing about we. We know I must have finished standard 6. But I know anybody could brush anything over our face and think that they can get away with it. Okay? That's the reality. But anyhow, the good gentleman want to say that, oh, Mr. Jerusalem may not necessarily have to feel offended by what he did to him or said about him. One professional lawyer at that level, international lawyer, when you tell them they don't understand the assignment, like if you tell them, you know, you're carrying a credential that you haven't earned or you don't know nothing about. You're spitting at the man's face, then you talk about, oh, well, he has been involved with the thing with the port, right? He's not involved with that thing for the port on behalf of the government. He's involved with it on behalf of Mr. Ashcroft. That is why they were pressuring to paying Mr. Ashcroft the hush money. To not get the whole story blow out in public and get exposed. They not tell the Belizean that. But that's what the man to try fast, when I call it fast track. They try they pick up speed and they try run one fast one by way and think that they get away. You know, get away no way, because a lot of it they out there they hear what they say and no way they stay not square with the reality. I know that he's a bamboozler extraordinaire. But we could see right through what the man say. He can tell the reporter, when the reporter asks him, does he feel like the man feel offended by what he said about him? He can say, well, the man is involved with the port issue. He never tell the reporter on behalf of Mr. Ashcroft to squeeze him and the rest of the government to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to Mr. Ashcroft. He make it seem like, well, the man is on our behalf, still working for the country and with the country in good faith. After he don't trust the man and the man credentials and his career, and expect that this man will go in all goodness and honesty without any sense of offense and represent us in a situation where, in the first place, with all the man's skill as a top lawyer, the man need other support entities around him. The man need historian, he need archivists, he need a whole lot of other people, top-notch people to work with him as a team. We government not provide any kind of support and an environment. They say they had the best lawyers that money can buy, but they never say they have the best team where money could put together. Because then they send the man they go represent me as a lawyer without the necessary research information. And when they give a man to go represent you, that just like when I give the past lawyer, the gang represent you that the Caribbean Court of Justice. Bogus information. Then pay for information to serve a particular purpose without necessarily checking to make sure that that information was stand up in the court and will help prevail on our behalf. So now all in the scamper and they run and hide. I don't want to tell where they go on there. You know why? Because they don't want the people get to know that even though we're supposed to have one strong case, we are not there to defend the case that we have the most strength in. That is the issue of whether or not the 1859 boundary treaty is valid. That's what we're supposed to have gone to the ICJ about, over the validity of that treaty. And we would have prevailed. Instead, they're going to create another thing, eviscerate the treaty or put the treaty to sleep and create another agreement between Belize and Guatemala, not between England and Guatemala, you know, who were the proponents of the treaty, but between Belize and Guatemala. They don't even bring England in at the picture to support we and give we the archive material that they have available and all the technical stuff that they could bring to bear on our behalf. They were left at the mercy of the Guatemalans, who are known to be historically revisionist people. And the Guatemalans, they have a lot of archives going way back from when they were first conquered until today. They have archival material that they could doctor. And in today's modern society or modern environment, almost any document can be doctored and you wouldn't know the difference. But then going to stand up in front of people, argue on case for which they are at the lowest possible strength. Then gonna make this side agreement to eviscerate for we treaty and empower whoever become the panelists on the court case with this side agreement that they agree to. The bogus agreement that facilitates Guatemala making claims not only just to piece of land, to sea, rivers, insular area, and any and all kind of claims. Why? Because they say we never did one cart road what we promised in the 1859 treaty. The thing I read earlier in the beginning of the program, for all intents and purposes, shows you and points out to you that there's no need for any cart road resolution, because for all intents and purposes, that cart road had been superseded by super highway. The cart road is already built, the commerce is already going on. There's no need for them to conflate that and have for we people and the rest of the world believing that it's built on a cart road that was not built and that is not built according to them and that they are not deriving any benefits from according to them, which is contrary to the truth. That they are now having us standing up defending our territorial integrity at the Hague. It's ludicrous on the face of it that for we so-called diplomats and learned people and lawyers and politicians and government officials and prime ministers from Mr. Price all the way down coming back to today date. They try to get we to belong to Guatemala's in 23rd district. I was ashamed and embarrassed to see that Mr. Barrow, under the last Barrow administration, went to Placencia and made additional agreements with the Guatemalans then that they, as of today date, are not living up to and have never lived up to any other previous agreements before that. While we live up to all those agreements and hang with Batty over Kinel to make the cattle and bite way. And people will say, where they pass by, see what they happen, and all they do that point out away and laugh. You got Batty over Kinel. Instead, deal with the substance of our territorial integrity and live up to the requirements of the United Nations who authorize our independence, the Central American seeker who acknowledges our independence, including Guatemala, the OAS, Organization of American States, of of which we are a member, duly recognized. CARICOM, of which we are a member, duly recognized. We have so many different international organizations that we belong to, right? So why are we disputing our territorial integrity at the Hague under a bogus claim that has no merits? The Guatemalans are not questioning no other part of that treaty because they have no basis. They're questioning the Cart Road. We build the Halakte Road. We build the road from Belize to Benke. Where other road they want to build now, or where they expect, where they think that would have justified the Cart Road? Now, mind you, a Cart Road in those days, back then, 100 odd years ago, 200 years back, would have been a real Cart Road, right? You could run your donkey and your cart from place to place instead of running on a super highway with all them big truck where they come in and Belize and broke up free road. But we're trying to run out. We only have about 20 minutes left. No, not 20, 10 minutes. 10 minutes left on the program. So I think we might have to add another 5 minutes because I need to get to this other part of the program. And thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Thank you, Greg, for your input on that first part. We have quite a few people that are asking questions or making statements. Can you see any of them, Greg? From where you would you like to acknowledge a few of them? Just before I go into this next part, because once I go into this next part, if I don't have enough time to finish it up, then I'll just leave it at that. No, but at least before the program is finished, I want to acknowledge some of the people.
Yes, good night to the Belizean people. We welcome you to our Belizean Affair program. I would like to thank Mr. Edgar Quillen. I would like to thank Mr. James Sanchez, Mr. Wilson Ernie Pickett, Pico Young, and many others who have tuned in tonight to our program. We welcome you and we thank you for tuning in. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll take another few minutes now to delve into the second part of the program. And this one is a little shorter than what I read before. But just in case we run out of time for the program, I want to assure the public that this kind of information that I put together here and put out, I don't only just read it on our program. I also post it on my Facebook page, and I also post it as part of the program. No? So let me go ahead and a few days ago, I wrote another article, and I said the following comments were made by Leonard Brackett as part of a Facebook thread by Detra Gillett in United Belizean Grassroots Association about Spanish invaders' attempt to dislocate or dislodge St. George's Key and Belize City, Baymen, on the 15th of September, 1779, all the way through the 10th of September, 1798. And I titled this particular item, Belizeans, British Hondurans, Right to Nationhood. I said, Detra Gillett and Elston Wade, those are two individuals that were going back and forward in addition to others on this particular issue. My dear esteemed, learned, patriot, venerable brother and sister, and vanguards of Belize, I would like to contribute the following comments. Number one, I said, Guatemala was conquered by the Castilians or Castellanos of Spain from the Quiche Mayans. Different Mayans than we have in Belize, by the way. right, in southern Belize and or in northern Belize. That's why I stipulated the specificity of what kind of Mayans those people conquered. Because there was a clip that my cousin played a while back where Dr. Awe was conflating the fact that Guatemala was conquered by Spain and they conquered the Mayans. But he did not clarify as to what Mayans, and then went on to intimate that some of those Mayans were conquered in Belize proper, that the Guatemalans had foot in Belize, conquered some Mayans in Belize, and took them over to Guatemala to use them as slaves, which was a conflation and an incorrect stipulation of history. There's no such support in history for that particular perspective, but nevertheless, it's put out there, and people, a lot of people would take it and run with it, believing it has merits. Number two, Guatemala declared its independence from Spain on the 15th of September, 1821 AD. Now, please bear in mind that I'm playing out these dates and times sequences of events because at the end of the day, there's a purpose, you know, but there's a reason for my madness, you know. Number three, Spain did not recognize the independence of Guatemala until 1863 AD, which is 42 years after Guatemala independence declaration and separation from the rest of Central America viceroy or viceroyalty. Number four, battles of the Saints between England, English Empire, Spanish Empire, French Empire, Portugal Empire, and others of 1798 through 1802 AD. As regards to one of the places in the, why they call it the Battle of the Saints is because a lot of places at that time were being named Saint this, Saint that, Saint the other, Saint whatever. But these entities and these empires were fighting for those territories. So I went on to try and clarify as regards to some of them. For example, we know St. George's Key at the time, right? St. Lucia, St. Vincent, St. Dominique, Grenada, etc., etc. Item number 5. The Treaty of Versailles on Battles of the Saint for agreement on cessation of wars and hostility and seizure of territories in 1802 in France at the Castle of Versailles. Number 6, Guatemala could not inherit from Spain the territory of British Honduras Belize, then being occupied and controlled by the Bay people or British, which Spain did not control and had lost at the Battle of St. George's Key on the 10th of September 1798, which Spain had subsequently ceded to the British at the Paris-Versailles Treaty of 1802 after the Battle of St. George's Key, before the time of Guatemala's declared independence, 15th of September of 1821. In other words, Spain had already at the Treaty of Versailles in 1802 ceded control of British Honduras to the BMN and England as part of the cessation of hostilities of those wars of the Saints, and also for taking people and moving people out of certain area and moving them to certain other area, and to move the people that were warring and fighting, to disengage them. I'll go on to read another part. Let me see. Guatemala proceeded after its independence to sign the Anglo-Guatemala Boundary Treaty of 30th of April of 1859 through 1863 AD in pursuit of stable borders, boundaries, because of the filibuster activities that Guatemala wanted to control. Item number 8. Many decades after, Guatemala now wants to abrogate, eviscerate, or invalidate the boundary treaty with the desire to take over the country of Belize with the acquiescence and tacit support of some fifth columnist Belizeans and high government officials and foreign interests. What honesty. The facts and history speaks to the reality that Belizeans, British Hondurans, the Bay people have a right to nationhood. We have been occupying that piece of territory long before Guatemala got its independence. So Guatemala cannot say that Spain, they inherited Belize from Spain because the Papal Bull, a few hundred years before they became independent, awarded the whole of America to 2 Spanish kingdoms. And by virtue of that, they have authority and rights to inherit what was awarded by the Pope to Spain. There's a lot of other countries right now in this Western Hemisphere that fall into the same category that Belize falls into. That is that their territory was awarded to Spain and or to Portugal. But they're all independent countries as of today date. They had a right and established a right and took and exercised their right to be the country that they are today. And so likewise Belize. But Guatemala have always wanted to control the whole of Central America, including Belize. But they never had the gall or the audacity or the capacity or interest in being able to conquer the place proper, take it, occupy it, and hold on to it. Belize is a smaller country than theirs, so now is when they want to turn around and reverse what the British did in the olden days, when the British had a big empire that they could sustain the ability to defend Belize or look after Belize's interests. We have our local fifth columnists in our country trying to tell us that we need to disassociate from the British, disassociate from anybody that could provide us any kind of support against the hegemony of Guatemala, so that we can be left out there as an independent, defenseless pauper. Hello, Belizeans. Check yourself, check the facts. That's the end of my presentation for right now. We've gone over a few minutes, but like I said, we need to add another 5 minutes. Mr. Wade,
Thank you.
Two out of those 5 minutes, sir, and then
Thank you. Real quick, I'd like to just acknowledge again our viewers and those who have tuned into our program. One of our viewers says, Edgar Quillen says, the United States quickly has never obeyed any dictates from the ICJ in the past. Please research this. Why would Belize be the first country to do so? Under what benefit? Because Belize independence from Guatemala was signed by 2 different Guatemalan presidents in the past and in 2 different instances. Only the US and Israel would side with communist Guatemala. Dean Barrow pushed us to the ICJ under 18% of the total vote. It says the ICJ concluded that, the CIA concluded that the case of the territorial dispute between Guatemala and Belize had been resolved, but because of the issue of the unpaved cart road that you mentioned, Leonard, to the sea, Guatemala would always bring up the dispute for any reason since then into the unfortunate, unforeseeable future, so that the CIA knew our issue from a long time ago. I have this CIA document in intensity, and we'll send it to Mr. Wade as soon as I am able to, for you all to read and share to any other patriotic value to our people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quillen.
Thank you
very much, Mr. Wade.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, to our viewers.
We have quite a few other individuals who made comments as well. And
yes, James Sanchez, Real Talk. Guys, Wilson, Ernie, Pickard, good night. Good night to you, my brother. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks for your input.
I'll address them when I get off the show. I'll try
Thank
to
you.
reply. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, and thanks, Gregory, again for such a wonderful show tonight. I hope that we have brought something to the table that people can be satisfied with, and that Belizeans will do additional research and acquire more knowledge, and stop make these jackals, hyenas, and vultures and vampires stop suck with blood and stop take with a fool. That's the end of our program for tonight, and I just want to say thank God for the privilege to have been able to participate and work with you good gentlemen.
Thank you.
Greg, you want to play a little something for us? Anything available?
Ancestors them get glory. After war and fight for this land today, I feel proud.